Good afternoon here in this side and the other side in the US. Good morning. So our main topic this year at the CSW 66 is achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in the context of climate change, environmental and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. Now I would like to share with you, as the founding member of the Union of Hungarian Women, our work and how we think we as NGOs can help women to be able to face climate change without being exposed to the several disadvantages they have to face today. The climate is changing, but we are changing too. If we want to keep a sustainable future for our children, there is no other choice. The Association of the Union of Hungarian Women is an NGO. It was established in 2013 with 17 founding members. We currently reach more than 5,000 people directly and participate in around 200 events every year, financing our programs through both national and international funds and applications. We have been formed to integrate successful national and international practices to improve the status of rural women. We believe that our mission is to create and maintain active communication channels between these women and policymakers, chambers, state institutions, and other non-governmental organizations nationwide, as well as playing a mentoring, coordinating, and advocating role. Our main goal is to encourage rural Hungarian women to embrace their role in the family, to improve their quality of life, to protect their physical and mental health, and to inspire them to become an entrepreneur. We are a member of the COFACE, the Families Europe. We applied for the membership of the Women Entrepreneurship Platform, and welcome here, Shailen, and we are very happy that you are with us today. And we have a consultative status at the United Nations Economic and Social Council. We are also participating as chair of section in the event of the Commission on the Status of Women, CSW 66. And last but not least, we are actively participating in the Copa-Cogeca Women Committee as the member of the board. It's me, it's myself, and I'm very happy that here we are together, the Hungarian Chamber of Agriculture. So welcome, Mrs. Györfi, that you are with us today. And we also maintain a cooperation agreement with FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the Union of United Nations, I'm sorry. And welcome here, Ms. Anna Yenderdejian, specialist with FAO, and I hope that Dono Abdurazakova, she is with us today too. First of all, I would like to talk about women and why we have to acknowledge their huge contribution to the environment. Several studies, including American and Hungarian researchers as well, have shown that women are the key actors of the management of sustainability in their communities and their families. And this is what we at Union of Hungarian Women put in the focus of our work. We look at women as the key figures in helping to create a sustainable future by educating their children and their communities. They not only take responsibility in households, but on a higher social level as well. They take a huge part in managing food production, agriculture, water supplies, and forestation in most countries. The following statistics prove that women are the flagships of encouraging sustainability. For example, you can read it. Women produce 80% of food in developing countries. The women are the producers. Women live at a smaller carbon footprint than men with 22%. 71% of women try to live more environmentally friendly. They are more environmentally aware, and most importantly, they are the ones who mainly spread the awareness towards their families and children. Hence, the new term eco-gender gap, which means that more ethical choices are made by women. Referring to the research from Mintel in 2018, this term reveals that men are less likely to pursue environmentally friendly behaviors than their female counterparts. In Hungary, studies seem to prove the same. The study by the Hungarian nature conservationists showed that significantly more women than men agree that people are individually responsible to act against climate change. The study by Maria Kopp Institute for Demography and Families shows that 63% of Hungarian women are committed to protecting the environment. However, only 53% of men. Study by Demnet also shows that women, 76%, and people with higher education, 83%, expressed elevated concern about the climate crisis in the last 5 years. And of course, and yet, women are the ones who face lack of power and get less recognition. Heat waves, droughts, rising sea levels, and extreme storms, natural disasters affect women way more than men. That's because women are more likely to live in poverty than men, have less access to basic human rights like the ability to freely move and acquire land, and face systematic violence that escalates during periods of instability. These factors and many more mean that as climate change intensifies, women will struggle the most. In fact, the Paris Climate Agreement includes specific provisions to ensure women receive support to cope with the hazard of climate change. Gender inequalities define what women and men can do and cannot do in a particular context of climate changes. No more effective way of protecting the environment has ever been devised than by showing a community's love for the place where it lives. This thought by philosopher Roger Scruton represents the idea of how we have to start the changes on a community level first, and then that every little step matters in reaching sustainability. In 2021, we asked the Hungarian Climate Policy Institute, Mr. Litkei, and welcome here with us, Orsolya Kovács Magosi. We are very happy that you are with us today too. So we asked in 2021, the Hungarian Climate Policy Institute to talk about the importance of women in climate change and their added value to sustainability. They also helped us to show we have to emphasize the role of the communities and to promote this lifestyle. In the fall of 2021, this is why we created the Talent A education and support program for women farmers with the international agricultural company Corteva AgriScience. The Talent A program aims to provide a wide range of professional, educational, and financial opportunities for Hungarian women farmers. Here you can see on my slide that the website, this is talentahu.org. At least 30 Hungarian women farmers can participate in complex, free online intensive training course with experts. First, the applicants attended several online classes to learn about community building, leadership, negotiation, presentation and sales techniques, social enterprise policies, project management, product promotion and marketing plan preparation. After business lessons, they continued with agricultural studies, soil management, alternative plant protection, agri-digitalization, food safety, and distribution were in the spotlight. The last two classes featured an immersive presentation on sustainable agriculture and innovative crop protection with leading experts from the host, Corteva AgriScience. In the following session, the applicants had the opportunity to create their own sustainable project with the help of professionals. These projects are being evaluated just now, and with the focus on how they can contribute to the local rural community's life, as well as offering job opportunities for the people living there. Learning from this experience and thinking forward, we would like to continue the program in the future, probably on a more complex, high-functioning platform than Zoom, since feedback from participants has clearly shown that there is a great demand for this type of niche professional training. It is really important to emphasize that women aren't merely helpless victims when it comes to climate change. Their participation and leadership can have transformative effects in their countries and communities. This is a quote from Ayesha Alam, an expert on climate, women's rights, conflict at Yale University. It is important to realize that we as women have to support each other as well. Apart from educating and inspiring the men around us, we need to inspire each other first and share our knowledge and good practices. Like the previous quote said, we have to create solutions to include rural women in leadership and social participation. But first of all, the most important part is to make them feel safe and supported. Safe in their communities, in their families, and in society in general. And everybody knows that during these days, the safe is the most important for everybody. Our neighbor country, there is an awful war, Ukraine and Russia. Yes. And we have to secure social protection measures. As a member of the Bureau of Copa-Cogeca, we have already discussed some further solutions to improve their status. These can be applied to this case as well. How we can, solution we need, adapting to change, and what we have to do. We have to develop policies to address climate change that recognize gender-sensitive impacts. We have to provide women with access to resources. We have to involve them in decision-making, offer trainings and education. And we have to develop, yes. And let's remember and integrate these solutions into our own communities to improve not only the present, but for the future as well, for all of us. And I would like to say some thanks to Mr. Attila Beneda, the State Secretary, who will have the welcome speech, and after him will be Hajnalka Juhász, the member of the National Assembly of Hungary, Vice President of the Hungarian Christian Democratic People Party. And I would like to thank for her too. I have already mentioned Mrs. Orsolya Kovács-Magosi, and I have already seen Margaret Otieno from Kenya. Welcome, Meg. I'm very happy that you are with us today. Charlene, I have already mentioned you, but I'm very happy for you too. And for Mrs. Anya Yender Dejian, specialist with FAO, And I would like to say that Mrs. Katalin Cipan is here with us too. And I am very happy that I met her, and I hope that we will work together in the future. And I am very happy here is Monica Mészáros. With her, we started together to organize this parallel event. And I am very happy that now she had been a mother with a small baby. So therefore, she is not the moderator today, that Yasmin had been the moderator, but I would like to request from her, from Monica, the closing remarks. So I'm very happy that you are with us today, and thanks for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Now, as Margot already mentioned, we will be continuing with a speech from Dr. Attila Beneda, State Secretary. He couldn't be with us here today, but I will be reading his speech that he very kindly sent to us. I will just share my screen in a couple of minutes, just to see everyone. Okay. All right. So I hope everyone can see. So please welcome, and I will be speaking on behalf of our Minister for Families, Minister without Portfolio from Hungary. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Hungarian Secretary of State for Family Affairs, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you, especially the representatives of member states, UN entities, and ECOSOC accredited non-governmental organizations from all regions of the world on this session today. Due to the still ongoing COVID situation, we are holding this session online. And unfortunately, I am not able to attend personally, but it is inevitable for me to at least send my thought about this highlighted venue. Ladies and gentlemen, this event's aim is to present a range of experiences in topics of gender equality and the empowerment of women in the context of climate change, environmental and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. Achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls is a goal Hungary has committed to long ago. It is a goal we have set for all parts of our lives, including the protection of our planet. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by the adverse impacts of climate change and thus natural disasters. At the same time, studies in Hungary have shown that more women attach more importance to the protection of the environment than men. Women have an unpaired vision and perspective on our everyday life. They know how to nourish, how to heal, to protect, and to sustain. Women are activists, experts, first responders, drivers of positive change, and role models for sustainability. It has become urgent and crucial to ensure their involvement in the policy and decision-making processes. In order to tackle climate change, the Hungarian National Assembly adopted the Act on Climate Protection in 2020, which stipulates the goal of complete climate neutrality by 2050. And I believe we have made some important steps to lead us there. In addition, in 2020, we launched the Climate and Nature Protection Action Plan to further define the steps we need to take for green transition. One of these steps is to plant 10 trees for every newborn baby, which means that by 2030, forests will cover 27% of the area of the country. You are going to hear interesting case studies during this day, but please let me highlight one example. 10 trees for every newborn baby. The reason for this special point is simple. In 2010, the Hungarian government has launched a unique, comprehensive family policy to tackle the country's demographic decline. Besides increasing financial support and public services to families and encouraging childbirth, family policies are designed to achieve gender equality and empower women by granting them the support they need according to their own personal preferences, whether they wish to stay at home to raise their kids or return to the labor market after childbirth. Either way, women have the necessary social protection and services, including paid parental leave, quality, affordable and flexible childcare, as well as job protection and measures to ensure work-life balance, just to name a few. The success of these measures are shown by the increase in female employment from 55% to 72% in the last decade. In Hungary, every child that is wished for shall be born, and for every child we will plant 10 trees. In protection of the family and support for women goes in hand with the protection of our planet. Because who should we preserve and protect our planet for, if not for our children? Ladies and gentlemen, as it was during the past few years, the Union of Hungarian Women Association has the opportunity to organize this parallel virtual venue. So let me thank you for them and the Permanent Mission of Hungary in cooperation with the UN and the FAO who cooperated this event. Last but not least, allow me to once again welcome you, and with these remarks, I wish you all a very successful and fruitful session. Thank you. So you could hear the speech of Mr. Attila. Thank you again. And now, after this beautiful welcoming note, I would like to introduce the Mrs. Hajnalka Juhász, from the member of the National Assembly of Hungary, Vice President of Hungarian Christian Democratic People's Party, Ministerial Commissioner, President of the Women Committee of the Hungarian Christian Democratic People's Party. She couldn't be here with us today, but I will be sharing her video message just now.
I would like to start by thanking you for the opportunity to speak on this important topic. Hungary is proud to be one of the first countries globally to set the target of reaching climate neutrality by 2050 on the national level.
I have heard that you cannot see the video, so just a few moments and I will be showing it. Right now, everyone should be able to see and hear. And sorry for the inconveniences.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by thanking you for the opportunity to speak on this important topic at such a prominent event. Hungary is proud to be one of the first countries globally to set the target of reaching climate neutrality by 2050 on the national level into law, making it legal obligatory. On 2020, the Hungarian Parliament adopted a law on climate protection, which now declares Hungary's medium and long-term climate target at the statutory level, namely that we will reduce our emissions by at least 40% compared to 1990 levels by 2030, and by 2050 we will achieve full climate neutrality. On 2021, the government adopted a resolution on Hungary's long-term emission reduction energy, the National Clean Development Strategy. With this document, Hungary expressed its commitments to achieve climate neutrality at national level. In response to the call of the Paris Agreement, this strategy aims to ensure the continuation of clean growth. We are also the first EU member state to ratify the Paris Agreement. The Hungarian government not only talks about climate protection, but also acts on it. Hungary has an ambitious climate policy underpinned by the Climate and Environmental Protection Action Plan announced by the Prime Minister. The implementation began immediately along the following priorities: elimination of illegal waste disposal sites, protecting rivers from waste, incentive environmentally friendly functioning of multinational enterprises support renewable energy, planting 1 million trees each year, introducing the green government bonds. The action plans also extends to transport. It will reform the incentivization of electromobility by offering more extensive grants. In the interest of the availability of the necessary services, all newly built residential and office buildings will have to feature charging stations for electric cars. The plan also supports the procurement of low and zero emission vehicles and public transport. We are very proud of our achievement. Thank you very much indeed.
So we should all thank Hajnalka Juhász for her speech today. Next, we have Mrs. Orsolya Kovács Magosi. I would like to welcome you with us. As far you can see her. She is from the Matthias Corvinus Collegium from Hungary, from Budapest. It is from the Climate Policy Institute. And you will be presenting about Mother Earth and Father Sky, our environmental issues divided by gender, if I am right. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope you hear me well. Okay, perfect. So I would like to welcome everyone. My name is Orsolya Kovács Magosi. And first of all, on behalf of the Climate Policy Institute that you just see in the background, I would like to say thanks for the opportunity for being here and to discuss such an important topic that this event represents. And if you allow me some further remarks on this, I would add that working on the field of communication and social sciences, I see that climate change and of course other environmental issues really became important. So they are on the media agenda, they are in the policy making and so on and so forth. And this is an essential progress indeed. But the social side of the climate change issue is still quite underrated compared to the technological and natural side of the question. So I am really, really pleased that this conference is dedicated to such issues as gender equality. I was asked to say some words on the Climate Policy Institute as well. The Climate Policy Institute was established by MCC, as you may heard, and Századvég Foundation in 2020. So it is still a newborn think tank, if I may say so. And in addition to our professional activities, by which I mean writing articles and scientific papers, our goal is to promote nature-loving and nature-friendly practices in Hungary and in the Hungarian society in the light of green conservatism. And this basically means that we take part in education programs for high school students and university students, and also for postgraduate programs. And we are trying to build a community by organizing debates on environmental questions, traditional and social media events and conferences. And we even have a consulting portfolio to help organizations and governments with our advice. So in our philosophy, we reject every kind of extremes and extremism, and instead we see the global issues through Hungarian eyes, by which I mean that we think that there is no global improvement without local actions. So for us, it is crucial to work within a multidisciplinary team. So there are lawyers, economists, and energy scientists among us. And I started off as a student at MCC, which is one of the founders of the Climate Policy Institute, and then continued my career as a PhD student. And in my research, I on climate change communication and the climate change issue. Let's move on the topic that I plan to discuss with you today, because if we look around the world, we see that the loudest advocates and climate change activists are basically women. Just think about Greta Thunberg, Jane Goodall, or Maria Stewart, and I could continue. And at the very same time, if we follow the scientific dialogue, we also see that even more and more publications address the question whether environmental protection and climate change is influenced by our gender or not. Is the connection right or not? Because maybe I lost internet connection.
Yes, it was working a couple of times, but I think I can hear you now.
So you can hear me, okay.
You don't share your screen, right?
No, I don't.
Then everything's all right. Now we can hear you. Maybe talk a little bit slower if possible, so that's okay. To avoid, because sometimes the voice is a little bit going away. So I don't know what might you.
Okay. So then I just said that we see that most of the climate activists are women, and that there are more and more publications in the scientific dialogue addressed to this question. So the questions are, is it true that women are eco-friendlier than men or not? And is it worth discussing the matter of climate change on a gender basis? And as a communication scientist, I always start thinking at the level of our words, because the words we use determine the way how we see the things that are happening around us. Let me just give you an example. If we use climate crisis or climate catastrophe instead of climate change, that opens a whole new perspective for us, and we will see things quite differently. So I named my presentation as Mother Earth and Father Sky, because I wanted to spark some attention to the fact that even in ancient mythologies started to personalize and interconnect gender with nature. And actually these ancient phrases stayed with us and remained part of our vocabulary even today. But switch back in time and let's see how gender is discussed in the modern climate change dialogue. So we see that wide range of studies state that because of the fact that women are more caring and are more empathic in their nature than men, they tend to think more about what is coming in the future, what kind of earth the future generations will inherit. And I would like to refer back shortly to the two studies that Margot just mentioned, because from the Mintalk Communication Agency's poll, we see that 71% of women said that they try to live in a more ethical way than men. And from the Hungarian study, we also see that 63% of women are more engaged in environmental issues than men. And this same study that was conducted by the Kopp Maria Institute also say that Hungarian women, it is really important for Hungarian women to pass over their eco-consciousness to their children, to the next generation. And there is a large-scale representative survey in Hungary, which is about the Hungarian youth, the Hungarian young adults, and it appears in every 4th year. And the last one was published this year, and it shows that for the Hungarian young adults, their mothers and their female teachers are the role models when it comes to environmental protection. So we see how important role women have in the life of the next generations. And I would also like to spark attention on the fact that we see from the mainstream media dialogue that they want to highlight that there is a big generational tension between Generation Z and the elder generation. But from the data, we see that this is not true, because the young adults have a great respect towards their parents. So in general, we can say that women are often responsible for gathering and producing food, collecting water, and so on and so forth. But with climate change, these tasks are becoming more difficult for them. Women have a crucial role in adaptation and in mitigation, because they have the knowledge on how to do that. And they know how to come up with practical ideas, but oftentimes they do not have the access to policy making. So as a final remark, I would highlight that we should provide the opportunity for women to take part equally in the climate change issue, since we all can profit from this knowledge. And we can also not forget that sustainability has a social side and a social dimension as well. So thank you very much for your attention. And I hope you could hear my speech.
Yes, after all, it all went fine. It was really interesting to hear about all this eco-consciousness about as a theory and as something that is really in our everyday lives. And even from the linguistics aspect, it was really interesting. At least for me, this was very new. Thank you very much. And I would like to move on now to our participant from Kenya, actually, Dr. Margaret Otieno, if I'm saying it right, please correct me if I'm wrong, National Coordinator and CEO of Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. Margaret, please take my word.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Margaret, and I am from Kenya. I actually live in Nairobi, just a few kilometers, less than 1 kilometer from the Nairobi National Park. I work for the Wildlife Clubs of Kenya, which is a non-profit organization. My organization works for more than 5,000 schools, and also with communities within and around key ecosystems in Kenya. I'm really humbled to be here today, and I feel very, very happy to have been invited to come and share my experiences. I hope you can see my presentation.
Not yet, please share your screen. You could do so by clicking on the share screen down below. We only see you at the moment.
Okay.
But we see you very, oh yes, much. Amazing, yeah.
Thank you.
It's all
So
fine.
my mission, which is also the mission of the organization that I work for, is to enhance wildlife and environmental conservation for prosperity. I believe women and nature are connected in a very special way, and women's role in conservation and in nurturing the future generations must be recognized and supported. As a child, my first lessons in conservation was from my late mother and my late grandmother. From my mother, it was Meg, don't waste water. And my grandmother, I recall very well, she taught me how to plant the first tree. So from these two amazing women, I started my conservation journey. And I believe that as mothers, we can give the future generations that opportunity by exposing them to conservation at a very, very early age. Every day I come up with new ways of empowering children and youth with conservation ideas, concepts, and activities, so that by the time they will become adults, they will be informed citizens, and they will be able to make informed decisions when they eventually become mothers and other decision makers like teachers, engineers, or whatever it is that they'll be doing in life. Because an engineer who is informed about the importance of conservation is different from an engineer who does not have an idea. I believe as mothers, as women, we have that responsibility. I ensure that there is gender representation in all the activities that I conduct. I always make sure that there is gender balance every time. I will not allow a class to come in where they have only selected boys. I always make sure that it's all balanced. And this is because I feel that especially the girl child must be there, because they are the ones who will be interacting with the various aspects of nature. It's a girl child and the mother, especially in 75% of Kenya, who are involved in collecting water, in collecting firewood, in ensuring that there is food, and in most cases, because there is no proper hospitals and medical care, they are the ones who go to the forest to collect traditional herbs for medicine. So it's the girls and the women who interact at a very close angle with nature. And therefore, it's really, really important to empower them. When we empower kids at the Wildlife Clubs of Kenya, and for anybody else who empowers kids, then we are aware that these children will go back home and implement what they have learned. And in this way, they are going to share whatever knowledge they have with the mothers. And once the mothers have that, this is beneficial to not just the children who went to school, but the children who are yet to start school. So empowering women whose livelihoods are dependent on the abundance of nature with the necessary skills is therefore critical in addressing today's environmental challenges and preparing the next generations for a sustainable future. Now, I will just share with you some of the activities that we involve the children with, that the children actually go back home and share with the parents. Of course, there's the other aspect, which is the indigenous knowledge, which we automatically learn from our parents, just like I've talked about my experience with my late mother and grandmother. So on the first slide there, you can see that we have children who are learning how to prepare tree nurseries and even planting trees. We teach the children how to plant trees. It will be very hard to find a child who doesn't go home and tell mommy what they learned. Today, it's a different generation. It's not the kind of generation where mothers automatically did these things, but we have mothers who are actually learning from their children. And what an amazing thing that we do with that. As you can see in our activities, I always make sure that we have girls. So girls who will become, women will become mothers. They grow up with this knowledge and with this information. I also hold teachers training workshops because of the multiplier effect. You train one teacher and they are able to train entire schools. And I make sure that when the head teachers are sending the teachers for these workshops, I make sure that I emphasize that we need to have women also coming, so that it's not just the male teachers. For many years, it used to be a case where it's only the male teachers who would attend such courses, mainly because the women are left at home taking care of the babies and making sure that the rest of the family is having food. But today we make sure that they're there and they are also trained. Things like a butterfly farming, school project, and community project. This kind of activity, we have both the men, the children, and the families, so that when the schools are closed, then the families take care, and the teachers and the school community take care. Now, fortunately, you find that it's really the women who go out of their way to do this. Now, in our program, I mentioned that we work with women, both within the key ecosystems and outside the key ecosystem areas. And for a long time, we've had problems of people cutting down trees for firewood and also to burn charcoal. So what we have trained the communities to do, especially the women, is to establish fish ponds. Now, communities have fish ponds as alternative income activities, as opposed to charcoal burning, which was previously the way of either making money or also of getting a resource, fire to be able to cook food. We have also encouraged the women to fence the woodlots so that they have ample time to be able to do other things. Otherwise, in most of the nomadic communities in Kenya, you find that the women are taking care of cattle the whole day. And therefore, this ties them and they cannot do anything else with their time. Other income generating activities, which also help in combating climate change that we involve women in. One very important activity that we are involving women in is energy saving initiatives offering improved fireplace. When I was growing up, my grandmother used to have 3 stones as the fireplace, the cooker, oven, it was 3 stones. But now we have introduced this, and this takes very few firewood. Actually, we are told that it takes 2 pieces of firewood. And in the same fireplace, the women are encouraged to keep chicks, and they use this as a chick brooder. And this empowers the women and at the same time saves the forest, because they now need less firewood to make food and to cook for their families. The other thing that we've introduced, not just in schools, but also in the communities, is rainwater harvesting. And this empowers the women and the girl child, because it's a girl child that goes to collect water. And when she is doing that, the boy child is very busy studying. So with water tanks, we are releasing the girl child so that they are able to also study like the boy child. We are releasing the women to interact with other women and to learn other opportunities for income generation. But apart from that, we are mitigating climate change, because there is drought like at the moment in the country. But if they collected water during the rainy season, then these women will have the water that they really need. Education for sustainable development projects is one of the things that we are involving, not just the children, but also the women. And this is mainly for food security and plastic waste management. I am just showing you a few of the things because I don't have much time, but the children are involved in food production. And through this, they are able to have lunch at school and even take some vegetables home. And this saves the mother's time that they can now use for something else. We also have the plastic recycling plants that we have installed in several schools, and the children collect these plastics from home and everywhere else, because the more plastics, used plastic they collect, the more they earn. And as a club, because our organization, Wildlife Clubs of Kenya, they can make trips, they can have various activities that they would otherwise not be able to afford. Yeah, I talked about the fish ponds within communities, mainly for the women, and also in schools. Because of climate change, we are losing certain species of fish. So With the fish ponds, we are able to stock this, and the women are able to supply their families with the food that they badly need. And also beekeeping, the women are able to package honey and sell this. And this is helping in biodiversity development and also in creating income through the sale of the honey. So beekeeping for income and biodiversity conservation is a major thing, and we do get trainers to train the women. And recently, the Maasai Women's Group in Transmara were awarded for their initiatives in beekeeping. We have the mobile education unit so that we assure that all children, regardless of where the school is based in the Republic of Kenya, are reached in our activities. Every child should be reached in our activities, and we really find that very important. We also create awareness amongst the children, taking them to areas of conservation interest and awarding the kids for the good work that they do. Connecting children to nature is women's role. And apart from that, if we connect them very early, then as they grow up, they will want to protect nature. With the kind of activities that we have, we find that the women are empowered, the girl child is empowered, the environment and biodiversity is conserved, and we are contributing to climate change mitigation and adaptation. And Kenyans will continue having food because of these efforts. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It was really interesting to see how many things you do, actually. It's really, I really wished for that I had these opportunities during biology class or something, like tree nursery or the butterfly farming sounds. Really is a thing that I would really love as a child. And really creating the thoughts, circling back to what you said about bringing up an engineer who actually has a consciousness for nature is really important. Whereas without studying in a class where we talk about it, it's really hard to be aware of these things. So thank you very much for your presentation. And we are running a little bit out of time, but it's fine, I think. There will be no problem. I would like to welcome now our following speaker, Mrs. Charlene Lambert. Please correct me if I'm saying anything wrong or pronouncing. Founding board member of WEP, Women Entrepreneurship Platform. You're going to talk about the Green Deal. Yes. What roles for women farmers and rural women entrepreneurs?
Yes. And can you bring up my slides, please?
Yes, Margot will be assisting with that.
Okay. Well, I'll just start. And first of all, thank you so much, Yasmin, for your introduction. Thank you to Margot for the organization and inviting me. It's a fantastic event, and the only thing missing is that we're not all together in person. I think it would be amazing, even more amazing. But I was also very moved by Margaret's talk, and I would think so much that we can all learn so much from the African women and how they are managing, entrepreneurship and farming and, just managing life. And I just think we have to talk more about how they do it, and we can learn so much from them. So my presentation today is about the Green Deal and the recovery and the role for women farmers and rural women entrepreneurs. And the Women's Entrepreneurship Platform is a registered international NGO based in Brussels, and we represent, support, and advocate on behalf of women entrepreneurs from all walks of life to European institutions. We have members from across Europe and beyond. And we are so pleased that the Hungarian Women's Union has just become a member. It's fantastic. We know Margot for a few years now, but we're so pleased that she has that your organization has joined. And I guess the idea behind this study was that the European Green Deal is a policy document that sets out its commitment to Europe to tackle climate and environmental related challenges. And you know, the problem is that they aim to protect and conserve and enhance EU's natural capital. The problem is, you know, what role do women have? And we know from our own experience that many of these programs, even though they have good intentions of involving everyone, when it comes down to, you know, checking who actually got involved, women pick the short end of the stick. They are much lower on the totem pole, let's say, than men. And our intention was to flesh out the details, why this is so, and how we can ensure that women get equal advantage of this program. And I must say that the total budget for the Green Deal over the next decade is 1 trillion euros. And so it's a lot of money we're talking about, and we want to make sure that women get their fair share of the benefits. When we examine the Green Deal policies, the potential to get women involved is fundamentally inadequate. And I think we can go, first of all, I'll mention the partners in the WISE for Challenges. We collaborate with ESCOM, which is a management communications organization based in Brussels. And there were 3 other organizations in our group: Libera from Italy, University of Pisa from Italy, and INCOMA from Spain. And each group was looking at a different aspect. So WEP was looking at the Green Deal, University of Pisa was looking at health, INCOMA was looking at education and culture, and Libera was looking at the social pillar. And the idea behind the WISE for Challenges is that it wanted to promote the participation of women and girls in EU Parliament activities and engage civil society in these activities. And we believed at WEP that women in rural areas, women farmers, were a voice that needed to be heard more clearly. And that's why we chose to focus on women farmers and women in rural areas. One of our members is the COPA COGECO Women's Committee, and we work very closely with them actually through the course of the research. The next slide, please. So this slide just presents across the top, the purple boxes are the 5 WEP pillars. The pillars are what the European Commission in a study in 2014 found that women need more access to finance, education and training, innovation, better government policies, and access to networks if we wanted to see more women entrepreneurs succeed. Currently, only about 1/3 of all entrepreneurs in Europe are women, and women are seen as a huge untapped resource. And women farmers, of course, are even more so. We also added another box, purple box, and that is the need for a strategy. In the past, we have had some excellent programs and activities and calls that have to do with women entrepreneurs. However, there's some noise in the background, I'm sorry. However, we realized that the strategy was missing, and we need a strategy as a fundamental element of a women entrepreneurship program. We need to know where we're going, how we can measure our success rate, and what we're doing. On the left-hand side, you see a selection of the Green Deal policies. We couldn't include all of them in our study, but we picked some that, actually most of them, and we just show with this slide how there is a relationship between the policies that are set out in the Green Deal and the pillars that we have to strive for to support women entrepreneurs. So this is just showing that there's this intersection. And it was on the basis of this matrix that we developed our questionnaire. The next slide, please. So the survey, actually we had 306 completed surveys, including the largest number from Italy, which is 238, 44 from France, and then Spain 3, and Poland 3. So we had smaller numbers of surveys from other countries, but this is just to give you an idea of where the results came from. And we believe the Italians came in very strong because they are very interested, and they're committed to getting more women involved in entrepreneurship. And so we think that that's the reason. The next slide, please. So this is just to give you an idea of where where the survey was distributed to. So it went out to the COPA and COGECA Women's Committee, which represents all women farmers organizations across Europe. It went out with the Weak Egg platform. Each of those organizations sent out at least 2 public announcements, and we know COPA and COGECA sent out even more. And we emailed also WEP's members, our contacts, and we also distributed it through the Wise for Challenges platform. It was in 4 languages: English, French, Italian, and Spanish. It was developed on SurveyMonkey. We also offered Dutch and German support if people wanted to talk to us instead of filling out a form or in Dutch or German. We offered that possibility. And we also had interviews in 3 countries, Ireland, Italy, and Spain, just to test and see if we were on the right track. And with COPA and COGECA's Women's Committee, we had a focus group, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Next slide, please. So these are the key findings. How to get access to education, training, and mentoring to provide new innovative projects. The respondents said they needed special training. Access to finance. The result for this question was there is no one solution fits all. The response with the highest response rate was special microfinance programs need to be developed for women farmers, but there was a variety of solutions suggested. So we think that there has to be a variety of solutions also developed. How to acquire the necessary know-how to develop new innovative products and services. The highest response rate was we need special calls and challenges for women and girls on topics related to the Sustainable Development Goals. So 26% responded with this answer. Next slide, please. Number 4, the need for government policies. Which ones are the most important? And the highest response rate was for policies that help women to build up their pension, enjoy joint ownership of property, and allow for paid holidays. The importance of networks, and we offered for this question a number of answers, including women's networks, and the highest came out that they needed, the rural women and women farmers wanted to have better access to agricultural and rural networks. The 6th question was how to ensure that more girls and young women consider entrepreneurship, and a number of solutions were presented. The top 3 were offer entrepreneurship studies at the secondary level, implement programs for school-aged children to plant the entrepreneurial seed, and develop special programs for young women. So those are the answers to that question. And the next slide, please. Of 80% of the respondents recognize the need for a strategy for women entrepreneurs. And of the 5 WEP pillars, the participants in the survey said that education and training rated the highest. So they needed, the most important was education and training. The next slide, please. This was an open question. What is the most important piece of information you would like to provide or message that you would like to share to ensure that more rural women entrepreneurs and women in agriculture are able to contribute to the Green Deal? And these are a variety of answers that we got. We picked out some that we thought were the most relevant, and some were actually repeated more than once. So you know, don't put up barriers. Collaboration between young people and women. We have to dare. We have to give women the self-consciousness to express their feelings. Women can play a big role in producing food and multifunctional farming. We have to enable women to be confident. We have to bring about awareness and knowledge, the importance of networking. We have to reduce financial inequalities. We have to trust. And how women can contribute to the Green Deal, that's the question we're trying to answer. Next slide, please. We also had a focus group with COPA and COGECA, and I'd like to thank Bronwyn Miles, who was our contact. We had a very interesting session where we talked about, in particular, the importance of the multifunctional farm and access to finance, and what can women farmers add to the success of the Green Deal. Next slide, please. So the focus group results are the following. Participation and recognition of rural women in the social and economic sphere will result in a range of benefits. 2, the multifunctional farms, 75% of focus group respondents stated that the multifunctional farm was important or the most important for women farmers. Multifunctional farms are farms that have more than one purpose, or they have ancillary secondary uses that a lot of times women farmers will develop. For example, it could be a camping facility, or a school educational program, or it could be some kind of a visitor center, or anything that's adds to the main purpose of the farm. We need infrastructure to improve the quality and accessibility of infrastructure in rural areas. And more than one woman mentioned the need to improve the broadband network. The next slide, please. Facilities and services such as childcare, elderly care, healthcare, schools are currently not always available in each country. And in some, there is a crying need. And we would like to see a European standard for these kinds of care facilities to ensure that women get some of the support that they need. We can't expect women farmers and rural women to step up to the Green Deal when they don't have childcare, they don't have elder care, they don't have health care. And we know from our focus group discussion that was brought out, that not everyone is equal. So that's one area that we're very concerned about and want to work on. Measures for parental leave, sick leave replacement, and paid holidays must be in place to cover families' needs. Financial self-sufficiency is important for women farmers. It's often very difficult because the farm is often passed down from father to son. Women don't have, in many cases, the right to own the farm. So they have to look for other means to become self-sufficient. Female-led cooperatives can assist in supporting rural green entrepreneurship. The next slide, please. And this is just a pyramid of priorities that we developed from the survey, and education and training came out number 1, access to finance number 2, innovation, access to innovation is 3, government policies 4, and networks is 5. So just to give you an idea, so when we go back to start working on the implementation of this project, we're going to look first and foremost at the education, training, and mentoring, and in second place, finance. Next slide, please. The conclusions and actions. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges facing us today, and farmers, forest owners, and cooperatives will be among the first to feel the impact. The family farm is of fundamental importance for our sustainable future and for safeguarding our food security and food sovereignty. And we know that women in particular have to be brought back to the farm in some cases to ensure that the rural areas, the rural communities survive. We know that a lot of people are leaving the farms, leaving the rural communities, and We believe that the supporting women to stay on the farm, to stay in the rural areas, will also ensure that we have more local food production, which will ensure our food security and food sovereignty. And women entrepreneurs and farmers from across Europe are struggling to have their work recognized and valued. They see firsthand what the problems are and have ideas on how to solve them. They need access to the necessary means which will allow them to contribute their solutions. And the next slide, please. This is the last one. Bridging the gap and providing a level playing field with policies and structures that promote and place women in the driving seat will be an essential first step. The EU needs to bundle its resources to move forward in strategic ways. And a strategic action plan needs to be developed based on our 5 pillars in collaboration with members and partners. And we will continue to work to ensure that the voices of women farmers and rural women are heard so that they can contribute in the best ways possible to the Green Deal. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Charlene. And thank you, Margot, for sharing the presentation. I would like to welcome next from FAO, actually, from Armenia and USA, Anna. You're here with us, if I am not mistaken. Yes. Could you please unmute yourself?
Thank you. Hello, I will start sharing my screen. Just give me a second to figure out that. And do you see the screen or?
Yes, yes.
The right one, correct one, right?
Yes, please put it on full screen and then everything is set up.
Just a second. Okay. I think now it's all fine. Okay, so thank you very much for this invitation, and it's a great pleasure to be with you today and talk about the issues, but also get inspired. So today's presentation will be focused on FAO's work in Europe and Central Asia, and I will be talking about the intersects of climate change and gender equality and empowerment work, women's empowerment work. I'm a gender and social protection specialist for Europe and Central Asia. So when we start talking about the issues of climate change and gender equality, we tend to, in many cases, we recognize the intersections, but it's still clear that these two areas sometimes are very much separated from each other. It's widely assumed that and acknowledge that climate change related events intensify social and gender inequalities. And this means that we need to work in terms of resilience building in a way that the benefits and capacity building and all other interventions benefit women, men, and their communities equally. And can women and men, girls and boys can avoid cope with or recover from climate change shocks and stresses. And this is basically in line with the international document, and I won't be repeating here the Agenda 2030, 2015 Paris, and Sendai agreements. So at the same time, we do have this issue of a lack of data, on lack of recognition also. And we do have, especially in Europe and Central Asia, specific data gaps on the impact of climate change related events on women and men, girls and boys. So, but before we start talking about what is FAO doing, let's look at the climate finance. And, you know, when we start talking about recognition of the women's role in climate change mitigation and adaptation, we need to understand also how much women benefit from climate finance. In 2019-20, I think it was 2021, the study was commissioned, which looked by FAO that looked at the distribution of climate finance from 2000 to 2018. And unfortunately, it became clear that only 1/5 1/5 of global climate finance has been reviewed from a gender perspective, and the gender marker has been defined. This is a huge gap that needs to be covered. Trends in global and regional climate finance also flows to the agriculture and youth-led sector between those years, show that the funded activities do not necessarily target gender equality. And of course, there are many reasons. First of all, there is an assumption that climate change affects everyone, so the projects should not be targeting specifically women, which is, of course, indicates on gender blindness, but also there's an assumption that these projects in a way would be very technical and there is no need to do specific gender analysis. This situation has been changing, and we are also trying to address those in FAO, but also within the other development organizations. Especially in the terms of the challenges that rural women face in the ESA region, FAO has been working on national gender profiles of agriculture and rural livelihoods. Here, there are examples of Serbia and Ukraine, but we also have the studies from Western Balkans, Eastern Europe, the South Caucasus and Central Asia that show that even though the countries are very different, there are certain similarities, that gender confines women to manual, informal and low-paid tasks, and they have weaker access to decision-making, including income and finances. Women also have more limited access to land due to the situation with marriages and also with inheritance laws. Women also have weaker access to services, machinery, in innovative agri practices. At the same time, I think within this audience, no one would be denying the fact that women's domestic and reproductive work overwhelmingly fall on women's shoulders, which increases their time allocation, especially when men migrate to work. And this also brings fewer opportunities for women to participate in climate change related decision making or benefit from climate change finance. This way, we have developed a guidebook, and I will show you that, this is still going to be published soon. But we have developed this results trilogy in order to communicate to the national decision makers, but also to project implementers, the idea that there is that empowerment women in accessing to land, services, machinery, agri practices will improve women's presence in decision making, including income and finances, and will realize women's pivotal role for climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction. So this means that ensuring diverse women participate in decision-making at all levels, reduce women's work burdens, support collective action through the promotion of sustainable natural resource management and facilitating resilience in agriculture, forestry, and other land use sectors. So a couple of examples, and this is a very limited list because I have very limited time. I was asked to limit my presentation for 10 minutes. So we will just quickly touch on good practices to identify where the situations where women and men can benefit equally from climate change finance. First thing is, of course, planning. The idea that even on the level of project planning, there was to be clear gender awareness of making sure that women and men benefit from the projects. For example, in Armenia, there was a project recently that was looking at the Jeff Trust Fund and the implementation of Armenia's land degradation neutrality commitments through sustainable land management and restoration of degraded landscapes. For these reasons, it became clear that during the conceptualization of the project, the value chains that will be benefiting from sustainable land management and restoration should be the ones also where women's access, women's benefit is recognized. So as you see this small table in the corner of the presentation that shows how a simple analysis with stakeholders was able to present different value chains, and this is the example of vegetable value chains, and demonstrate the perspectives of women's potential, but also impact on environment, climate change, but also considering other aspects as job creation and market demand. So you see there is basically what they did. They had the stakeholder consultations, they did the assessments, and based on that, very clear, very simple tables were developed for assessing different value chains. And in this case, vegetables have been valued as higher, for example, than in comparison to wheat. Another good practice in having gender action plan, and this is basically follow up on the previous slide, planning. Gender action plans are a result of very detailed gender analysis, stakeholder assessment, and they should be integrated into the programs, designs, and activities. This was the case in Georgia when it became clear that in order to promote sustainable management of degraded pasture lands, the women groups have to be involved in the decision making, but also have to have the same opportunities of accessing information, services, and other activities. This is the pictures from the project's activities that are ongoing, and there of course have to be synergies with other activities. You see here the woman who was able to buy a tractor, but she's also practicing very low-tilled agriculture, and this is other picture from the fields where women are collecting. So the project has been integrating quantitative and qualitative indicators, and there's a clear also understanding of what are the capacity building needs in terms of knowledge and information sharing of all partners involved in this project. Finally, moving into Kosovo, data generation and capacity building. There is a project that is ongoing project with the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Rural Development of Kosovo, and also in the partnership with Kosovo's Forestry Agency that looks at the timber legality, trade, and law enforcement in the forest sector. As you know, Kosovo is a territory with a high level of forest coverage, but also has issues with the ownership of forests, which is mostly men. At the same time, women benefit from forest products, and they also provide activities in terms of managing the resources. In order to streamline those aspects, it was very important to provide sex disaggregated data to decision makers, because as this is the quote from the team that was working, sex disaggregated data is key to triggering a mindset change in institutions. The data alone, however, is not sufficient. There is more need to be done in making sure that the knowledge is generated that is applied also in practice by decision making. So in order to achieve that, within the project, certain capacity building workshops were organized, but not only with the ministry and forestry level, but starting with the very local level, starting with the municipalities, local implementation units, and concluding with a workshop at the central level where there was an agreement on what needs to be done. These are not all the examples that I wanted to bring for this session. The soon to be published regional guidebook also includes case studies from Central Asia and the Republic of Moldova, in addition to these good cases that have been identified. Using this opportunity and the platform, I would also like you to invite to a side event organized, which will be organized by FAO during the Regional Forum on Sustainable Development, which looks at this aspect, which is, you can see the link here, and the title is Opportunities and Challenges for Promoting Rural Women's Empowerment in the ECA and Sustainable Food Systems. So I would be very happy if all of you present here will also join us on April 7th. Thank you very much, and that's it from your side.
Thank you very much. It was really informative. Thank you. And you can also put the link in the comment section, I think, for everyone. And also, I would like to ask everyone to send your presentations, if you haven't done it yet, to our email that I will be putting it in the chat as well. So last but not least, I would like to welcome Katalin Țipan, who is here with us from UNESCO on the Commission on Education and Communication of IUCN. Katalin, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. I try to be short, and I'm so lucky. As a last presenter, you are always lucky because you could listen, everyone. And now I need not to repeat what has been already said. I just can sum up what I have heard and how education can support all of the things you mentioned and described in the last some minutes. So I am representing two organizations. I am volunteering both of them. And by the way, I have a small enterprise as well, so I can represent different sectors here. When I was preparing my presentation, I was thinking, getting the title, what to speak about, what kind of building blocks I have for my presentation. And of course, we have to have a shared language. Thanks for Orsolya Magosi to speak about using the language characteristics, because we have to understand what the healthy future means, what the climate change means. Okay, we have the same understanding, hopefully. Why women and what about the women empower and the education? And of course, there are two other words came to my mind. One was the vulnerability and one was the empowerment. So these are the 6 building blocks that my presentation was built on. First of all, what do we understand under a healthy future? And I am convinced, I learned that the healthy future is a sustainable future. And for me, it means that the human beings can stay within the carrying capacity of this beautiful earth. What does it mean in details? Of course, many of you are already familiar and know a lot, but we don't know who all of the audience are. So I try to be a little bit going beyond the jargon and use a very easily understandable language. So for me, staying in the carrying capacity, it means that value and save nature. Okay, we could call it as an ecosystems because we know what the systems means, and this is the living systems around us that provides us water to drink and clean ourselves, air, what we can breathe, healthy food, places to enjoy, raw materials. And also this ecosystem moderates the temperature, the water extremes. And when we produce some pollutions and waste, it can sink or decompose or to do something to bring it back to the material cycle. These ecosystems we depend on. So if we want to stay healthy, we have to keep this ecosystem healthy. It was already mentioned that the UN in 2015 approved the Sustainable Development Goals. This is an amazing set of goals. I like this way of showing it because it shows that there is an ecosystem down here, and we, the human being, has to build a society that can manage the economy in a sustainable way. So this is our basis, and we have to lead within that basis. I really love other things. I just brought my magic balls. So you can imagine these goals as a system. So if I bring one piece, the others are moving. If I empower women, it can help the ecosystem and the climate change. If I do something the other way, it can help as well. So let's think the whole system and the whole world around us like this ball that is a system. Okay, the Sustainable Development Goals are for everyone and really touches all of the parts of our life, our work, our job, our feelings, our health. And there is one special goal, which is about the education. The SDG 4 is to have an education. Of course, first of all, we need education for everyone, access to the schools, access to the reading and writing skills or math skills. But for us who are privileged to be able to go to schools, for us, there is a special message about the quality of the education to equip our learners, all of the basic needs and skills and knowledge to be able to build this sustainable society to achieve the sustainable development goals. Okay, what about climate change? Everybody knows, but the recent IPCC report really, really rings the bell that we should do quickly something. Otherwise, if we don't, even if we reach the below 2 Celsius, and if we reach the 1.5 Celsius global warming globally, it can has an avalanche effect. So we should act now, right now, and everyone. I was so happy to see that in Glasgow on the COP25, there was a special meeting for the education ministers and environmental ministers together, and they committed to have the climate education and sustainability education put into the education systems. And let's see how we can support it together in the future. Why women? It was mentioned several times. I don't want to repeat because Margaret mentioned that this eco-gender gaps. We know Margaret Batyányi mentioned the eco-gender gaps. Margaret Otineno mentioned the vulnerability and the work of the rural women in Africa. So we know there are so many important things why we should empower the women. If we just think about that, without the climate change can be seen in the water extremes. And if we don't have access for clean water to drink or clean ourselves, sometimes hundreds, more and more girl child goes and walk for water and bring it back. And while they are doing it, they don't have any other time. They don't have time to do any other things, but going for the water and coming back. And also the women has special time in their life when they really have to have sufficient sanitation possibilities. And there is a lot of things, responsibility on a woman's shoulder. And there are a lot of wisdom from families, from grandparents, and from all of the parts of the life. And it was already mentioned several times, we don't have enough decision-making possibilities, and the value of the woman in the society doesn't valued well. The role of the women of the society. I just checked the education globally. 16 million girls will never enter a school, as according to the UNESCO data. And 2/3 of the women, 2/3 are women out of the 750 million adults. It's a lot, it's huge. So we should work on it. Let's see what. And I checked parallel in Hungary, and just to feel how privileged we are, because we in Hungary have access to schools, the whole society, and the girls as well. From 1993-94, there are a little bit more girls on the higher education than boys. And in the PhD courses, it's another way around, but the difference is really under 1%. But women in science are only 25%, 25.5%, while in the European Union we have 40.5%. So there is a lot to do to work on it. And in the secondary schools, we just made a research and ask the girls and the boys and everybody about their behavior and attitude towards environment, but it was already mentioned that the girls showed more attitude towards environmental issues, except the consumption patterns. It's a warning. We have to think on how to change this, or how to work with it, or how to be aware of it. Okay, what are the causes of the climate change? If we go back to the climate change issue, we changed how we use the land. This is the cover of the land changed a lot. We have globally the overpopulation. It's not an issue in Hungary and mainly not in Europe. We are consuming more than the earth give us. So we have the overconsumption, and the technology how we produce our stuff can be more efficient or effective or green. So what can education do with this? Because the education is a tool that changes the culture, changes behavior, and can lead to behavior change. And an education that really leads to a healthy and sustainable future has to be locally relevant and addresses the global issues at the same time. Thanks for Margaret Otieno to showing these amazing examples from locally, and also Anna from the examples from your rural development from Europe. The experience-based relates to the local needs and circumstances. It's not a general one. We have to see what the local issues are, and we have to make our education and messages fitting to that. We can't have, I think, we are not educating, it's not about educating of women, it's educating the whole society for empowering the women, to enabling women to take place. Because usually in gender meetings, or when we are talking about gender education, the institutions and universities are sending the women, let's discuss about how you will be educated and how you will be empowered. But it's not gonna work. The whole society has to realize the role and the power and the possibilities and the responsibility of a woman. But at the same time, we have to be very careful. We can't change a culture to go there and change it and to say, we are doing it here in Europe or the European Union, let's copy it. Because sometimes it really leads to a gender-based violence, because we are hurrying up and we are educating girls. They are a bit more educated. And in some societies, the way how to show who has the strengths is taking them or to show who owns the body of a woman. I don't want to go more deep, but it's very important to understand the local circumstances and to make changes that can be achieved. We can't be pushy, we can't be aggressive, we can't just bring our own way of thinking how education and women and the society has to look like. A good education leads to behavior change, creates a culture of conservation, valuing nature, supports learning at all age, young people and adults at the same time or parallel. Thanks for the examples. It showed a lot that when we are doing it together, it really leads to a kind of a change and appreciation. And the key is to awakening the responsibility towards the smaller system, even a family, even my own entrepreneurship, from the raw materials till the waste of what I'm producing, to see how they connect to each other, how we can do more together, how we can empower each other. And the key is that we should do it with love. 50 years ago, the Limits to Growth was published. This is a very basic book by system thinkers, led by the Dennis Meadow of that research group. And it's still valid. They told us 50 years ago, if we do the business as usual as we did, we will have 50 years later a kind of a very bumpy road to create our future. Now we see these bumps on the road. We have to learn how to keep our cars on the road. It's not an easy. And even 50 years ago, they had a special chapter that love is need to change our behavior, our attitude towards a healthy and sustainable future. We have to love ourselves, each other, and the children of the future, and the nature, the mother nature, or this beautiful earth, to be able to stay in it. And the sustainable development is not only about nature, it's mainly about us. How to keep our life our life circumstances in a way that we can keep our dignity and well-being in a more modest way, as we in the Western part of the world are doing it. I don't like this Western twist. So thank you. And just a little bit of advertisement, a really little bit in the Commission on Education and Communication of the World Conservation Union, that Margaret Otinio is a deputy chair. So thanks, Meg, for joining us here and in that chat as well. We just introduced, several years ago, we started a movement called Nature for All, which means that let's create thousands of love moments to appreciate, value, and love nature. And now we will just opening a kind of a love festival. I hope you will meet with this symbol in this picture in the future several times, because we would like to really amplify the voice of the people who cares, who loves, and who wants to do something for our beautiful earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Katalin, thank you. You really underlined, I think, our main problems nowadays, and really summed up very well. I think we have come to the end, so I would only ask Monica to have the final word for today. We can't hear. I can't hear yet anything. It might be you have to turn on the volume.
Now you may hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay, super. Sorry, my AirPods was not working. So welcome everybody. As Margot has just mentioned, I was in the early years the moderator for this event, and it was very inspiring to listen for all the presentations about securing a sustainable future, gender equality and climate change. And I would just like to give some sentences about what we have heard and what I learned from today's meeting. As Ms. Margit Batthyány-Schmidt, President of the Union of Hungarian Women Association, has just said, the change has started, and not only related to climate issues, but in all aspects of our lives. And as women are the motor of families, we need to ensure their appropriate support. Just right after Dr. Beneda, State Secretary from Ministers for Families, has just stated that Hungary is committed to do its best and tackle the climate change. and there is a strategy, even an action plan in Hungary, which was formulated. And in 2010, the Hungarian government has launched new initiatives to support families and newly born babies, as they are our future. And that's why the climate change, tackle the climate change is also very, very important to save the earth for them. And then right after Mrs. Hajnalka Juhász, the member of the National Assembly of Hungary and Vice President of the Hungarian Christian Democratic People's Party, has talked about in her video message that in 2021, Hungary has just launched the long-term strategy of the reduction of the CO2 emissions, and that also it's very important to support electromobility, and it's a key activity to be supported in Hungary, and it's a key of the support of the tackle of climate change issues. And then we have heard several case studies. It was very, very inspiring to listen Hungarian, Kenyan, and EU initiatives. First, we have heard the presentation of Mrs. Orsolya Kovács-Magosi, researcher from Matthias Corvinus Collegium and Climate Policy Institute, who was talking about the climate change issues. And they are a relatively new think tank, but already providing a wide range of services and events in the respective topic. And it was very interesting to understand from her message that according to their studies, the most climate activists in Hungary are women, and they educate their children to protect the environment and be eco-conscious. So that's why it's vital to support women. Then we had Dr. Margaret Otieno from Kenya, who is the national coordinator and CEO of Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. And she said that women and nature are connected in a very, very special way. So women empowerment is very essential in this Aegis. They have membership of 5,000 schools countrywide in Kenya and engage them in various activities related to, for example, food security and plastic waste management. So children can go home and influence basically the whole family in environmental protection. And then we learned the EU program from Mrs. Charlene Lambert, founding board member of Women Entrepreneurship Platform, that the EU has just allocated €1 trillion for 7 years of financial period for the Green Deal strategy implementation. The WEP, the Women Entrepreneurship Platform, has decided to support women more because they need to get access of funding programs from this Green Deal strategy special fund as well. And WEP would like to ensure that enough women participate in not only the activities, but in the funding system programs as well. They launched a new program, WEP Wise for Challenges project, and it is also an EU-funded program. And WEP is supporting women in agriculture to participate in activities together with Copa-Cogeca, the Farmers Association of Europe, and they concluded that family farm is of fundamental importance for our sustainable future. Then the last speakers were Ms. Anna Zsender-Dezsián, Gender and Social Protection Specialist with FAO, FAO Regional Office for Europe and Central Asia, and Ms. Katalin Cippán, Expert of Education for Sustainability, National Commission for UNESCO. Ms. Zsender-Dezsián mentioned that according to their study, only one-fifth of global finance has gender perspective, which should be changed as soon as possible. And the gender marker was not defined in this kind of global finance programs. So it should be changed as rural women faces challenges still. For example, fewer opportunities are available for them to participate in climate change related decision making. And FAO has information booklets to share important information in the respective topic and also publish good practices. We could hear, for example, good practices from Georgia and from Kosovo as well. And then the last speaker was talking about that the healthy future is a sustainable future, and it means that staying in capacity of Mother Earth, it is important to value and save the ecosystem and quickly do appropriate actions to tackle climate change. The education can help, and more women and people in general should be able to participate in the education. What I learned from all the speakers is that cooperation is a must, and cooperation in education and info plus good practices share is essential. So thank you very much for Margot for inviting me, and I hope I could give a summary about what we have learned and what we could share today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here today. We have a little bit, we ran out a little bit of time, but I think it was totally worth to listen to everyone's presentations because all of you were very informative and shared really interesting practices. So thank you very much again. And we will be posting today on our social media, so please check it out. We will be posting about the event, and the presentations will be available on our website, probably. Maybe also on our Facebook. We will let you know by email. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. All the best to you. And I hope that next year we will meet not only in virtual life, but in New York. So see you in New York in 2023. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.